Welcome to MarTech Talks. I'm Travis Wright and I'll be your host. I'm a marketing technologist by trade and co-founder of a digital agency in Kansas City called CCP Digital. And I'm also the author of Digital Sense, which was published by Wiley in January of 2017. And the book is all about social business, customer experience, digital transformation, and marketing technology. Now, since 2011, I've personally demoed between 1,200 and 1,500 different marketing technologies, right? So I was at Symantec, I was the global digital strategist, and I demoed a ton of technology there. And also each week on the VentureBeat podcast, VB Engage, along with my co-host Stuart Rogers, we talk about MarTech in our weekly show that debuts every Tuesday on VentureBeat. And we've interviewed the top minds in tech, right? And we'll continue to do so. But we very rarely interview MarTech vendors. And so in this series, MarTech Talks, however, we will be interviewing thought leaders and also doing demos with marketing technology vendors. We're going to be showcasing the coolest stuff that can be done today in marketing technology. And there's no other show that's like this one, okay? One that showcases marketing technology vendors. In MarTech Talks, we will do that, and we will bring you the best of the best in every episode. And it will be fun, it will be entertaining, it will be educational, so you're going to want to tune in. So let's get started with episode 1. And we visit Stackla HQ in San Francisco. And keep in mind, this is the first episode and it will only get better. Our sound equipment didn't arrive in San Francisco in time, so the sound may not be studio quality during the in-person interview portion of the video. However, future episodes will be. So we're very excited to get this kicked off. This is the very first episode, MarTech Talks 001 with Stackla. So without further ado, let's get started. Today, in this episode of MarTech Talks, we're talking to Stackla. All right, we are here in the Stackla headquarters, and who am I talking with?
My name is Peter Cassidy. I'm Chief Product Officer and co-founder at Stackla.
Very nice. And Stackla is an Australian-based startup, correct?
We're an Australian-founded startup.
Startup-founded, yes.
Here in San Francisco now, and got offices in London, New York, Austin, back in Australia.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's great. And you got to start. You and the other co-founder were journalists originally, correct?
Yes, we were content creators.
Content creators. Excellent. So what is Stackla?
Yeah, look, we help generally big consumer brands go and find the best customer stories that are out there on the web, right? So a lot of these big brands have got amazing customers and who are advocates and are posting great content about their brand, and we help them find all that content, bring it in, and then use it for all their marketing.
Well, that's great. So what problem are you solving for them?
I guess the biggest challenge that the marketers are facing now, particularly around content, is being able to create really personalized experiences for their customers, and particularly across all different touch points, right? When you think about email, advertising, web, e-commerce, etc. So the challenge is, I guess, twofold. It's trying to find or create enough content to be able to really personalize those experiences. But then secondly, it's actually creating authentic content that people care about, right? Mm-hmm. So brands are kind of solving this by creating a ton of really branded and like kind of photoshopped, inauthentic content. And our take on this is that user-generated content is authentic, it's trusted, it influences people's purchasing decisions, and there's a ton of it.
Absolutely. So you have rabid fans that are out there creating content about your brand already. You can take that and use that in a lot of different ways, including some advertising stuff, correct?
Yeah, definitely.
That's really fascinating to me. Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess advertising is a really, particularly social advertising we're finding, is a really great use case for user-generated content. And particularly because the content that you're pushing through those social ads inherently feels more social if it is social. Mm-hmm. I've said social 3 times in one sentence. So I think it makes sense, right? So like the notion of what we're doing, and I'll use an example with a brand that we work with, which is Toyota. So they spend a lot of money and a lot of time focusing on Facebook advertising specifically. And they actually were pushing a lot of branded content and trying to personalize and target their branded content in their Facebook advertising. What they started to use us for is to start aggregating real stories created by real customers and then push that through those Facebook channels and target it to specific audiences. And the reason why those ads are performing well is because it inherently feels like it belongs on a social network because it was created for a social network, right? So I'm scrolling through my news feed on Facebook, I see friends at a wedding and my family's on holidays, and here's an ad. Whereas with UGC powered advertising, it sort of feels more authentic, right? Because it's real content being created by real people. And in that case with Toyota, they A/B tested branded content and user-generated content in their ads, and the ads that showcased user-generated content saw a 440% better engagement score and ROI than the branded content that they push through.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And to be able to tell where it is, geo-targeting, we know this picture was taken here, we know there's a boat here, we know this is this particular place, and so people who want to come here will that's great. I love that. So maybe who are the people that you're solving these problems for? Who are the people within an organization that really benefits from this?
Yeah, I guess broadly speaking, we work with consumer brands of all shapes and sizes, right? So the really strong verticals for us are in travel, retail, automotive. I mentioned Toyota. Automotive is a really big one. CPG, food and bev, even non-profit is quite a strong use case for UGC. And the way we think of it is really any brand where they have, as you said, rabid fans, right? Where they've got supporters and people who are organically willing to create content and share their positive experiences about the brand. So obviously brands in the travel space, etc. relate themselves to that. So in terms of who we work with specifically, commonly we're working with content marketers, right? Because they need to create a ton of content that's really hard. So we have this mantra of curation over creation. And it helps them with their storytelling, right? Because they've actually got authenticity in the story they're telling.
You can actually pull in some stories from relevant people that tells your story better. And you're bringing in this brand advocacy of people who love you. So that's great.
Exactly. And we sort of put forward this notion of being almost like a conductor rather than a musician in an orchestra, right? So like you're taking all these custom stories and you're using it to craft the best brand message you can put out, rather than trying to invent something that feels a bit forced. But also we're working now increasingly with people who cover like CRM and email, e-commerce specifically, especially for retail brands. All they care about is conversions, right? And how they can get that going. And then we also work with, on the other side, folks who focus on the advertising side and dynamic creative, etc. So we really sort of span the full gamut of marketing roles in these consumer brands now. Oh,
that's great. And so if some of those people, if that's you and you're listening to this, if that's something that, if you're in that area, this is something you're going to want to check out. So how is Stackla different from some of, I know there's a few other user-generated content companies out there, how are you guys different? You guys are doing AI, you're using machine learning and stuff in this, and this is really fascinating stuff. So how does that work?
Yeah, I guess you mentioned the AI piece. That's really key for us. So we work with some of the biggest brands, and that's really a differentiator for us. We work with the likes of Universal Music and Ford and Expedia, McDonald's, some of the biggest brands in the world, and their challenges are slightly unique to what an SMB might have, right? One of their biggest challenges, in fact I would probably say their biggest challenge, is curating the sheer volume of customer endorsements that are out there, right? You imagine you're Ford. How many people are sharing great experiences about their new Ford purchase or kitting out their Ford for a motor show, etc., right? And so they've got to find all that content and make sense of it all and then know which content to push to the right person. That's not really solved by a simple workflow tool. In our take on that is that we actually apply machine learning technologies, feed a lot of data into an algorithm and start making predictive recommendations as to which content will perform and in front of which audience. So for those big brands, they can actually start training an algorithm to find and present the best customer stories without having to hire a bunch of interns to troll through millions of pieces of content. So that's a really big focus for us in that enterprise space. And I guess the other two big differentiating factors for us are around our enterprise sort of feature set. So we're an API platform, we've got a dashboard on top of that, but effectively we can be integrated into all different marketing tools, digital asset managers, content management systems, marketing automation platforms, people can plug us in, all that stuff. And then I guess finally, in terms of the differentiating aspects, would be the multi-channel use cases, right? So if you're a marketer and you truly believe that customer stories should be at the heart of your brand marketing, then really that should be the case everywhere you market, right? It shouldn't just be the case on the homepage of your website. You should be thinking about using this content in email campaigns, in advertising, digital out-of-home billboards. You should be thinking about everywhere you're telling your brand story, and they're the use cases that we cover off with our team.
Well, that's great. Give your customers a great experience. They love your brand. They're sharing content about you already. Are you curating that content effectively? Are you then sharing that content out on multiple channels? Are you using that content in your advertising? Because if not, this is a solution that could benefit you. So how about this, Peter? We jump into a demo.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right, let's do it.
All right, thanks, Pete. Well, let's go ahead and let's take a look at your website here. What do we got?
Yeah, thanks, Travis. Yeah, sure. So I guess you can see straight away here, we're really talking about letting your customers tell your story. And for us, it's all about real people creating real content, and that's being the most valuable thing for brands to leverage. So let me drill down a little bit here and talk to some of the value prop that people start to take away from UGC. I guess the biggest thing that stands out is around how people trust this content more than other content, more than brand content. 92% of consumers say they trust earned media more than any other form of advertising. And actually,
I've heard that.
Yeah,
they don't trust the CEO, right? They don't trust your brand. They trust consumers and word of mouth, right?
That's exactly
Absolutely.
it. We talk about this being word of mouth for the digital age, right? And like you can see here as well, 81% of consumers' purchasing decisions are influenced by their peers' social posts, right? So this is actually, it's not just like a feel-good number. This is actually purchasing decisions being driven through this content. So I want to give you the really high-level overview of how the product works, and then we can jump into the dashboard and actually look at the nuts and bolts.
It's just kind of like influencer marketing on steroids in some ways.
Yeah, and it's like the idea that you're making just real people influencers, right? The people are happily, organically talking about your brand. You don't have to pay them. They're just they're happy supporters and advocates for your brand, and it's about amplifying their voice.
Oh, that's beautiful. Actually, Stuart Rogers and I on the VentureBeat podcast, we were talking about this a few episodes ago about how big brands, when they're using big influencers, that's not as impactful as when brands are using micro influencers, and micro influencers overall have more power collectively. So this kind of fits right in with that, right?
Yeah, it's exactly right. I think you're giving the power to the people in a way, right? And so and people actually trust people that they deem to be like them, right? So if you see Kim Kardashian wearing a new pair of jeans, like a lot of people wouldn't necessarily connect in an authentic way with that. Whereas if they see people that they deem to be just like them, really supporting a product or a brand, that's got a lot of power.
That's great. So we can do some discovery and some other things with this?
Yeah, so the first stage of using a UGC product like ours is going to be discovering content. Now, it's going to be different if you're a retail brand, or if you're a travel brand, or if you're a CPG brand or a government organization. But there'll be a heap of different tools you can use to find the right content. That might be geo-based rule sets. It might be language filtering. We do visual analysis, all these kinds of things. And we actually pull content from more than 15 sources, so different social networks, news sources, etc. We'll bring them all into the product. And at this point now, you're going through a curation phase. So that's actually starting to analyze the content that you're collecting and starting to categorize, group, and make sense of that content. And that can happen through tools like image recognition, through location analysis, language analysis, sentiment analysis. And you start tagging and classifying the content. And the tagging could be around products you stock, it could be around campaigns you're running, or different audience demographics. So once that curation...
So using AI and machine learning on this to identify those different items within those photos?
Yeah, definitely. So we use machine learning technology to help curate the content through visual analysis. So we'll actually scan images and videos as they arrive in the product, and we'll automatically assign tags to those to determine what's featured in that content. It's taking what a human being would do, or a marketer would do, and allowing that process to scale almost infinitely.
That's smart.
Yeah, and so once that curation's happening, it's then coming through to really the sexy part of the product, where you can start pushing that content into all the different marketing touch points that matter to you. So in this case here, you can see we're pushing that content through into an Instagram ad. You can also push it through to websites, etc. And I'll touch on that in a bit more in a second. And then finally, the last phase is around analyzing that content and how it's performing. And the great thing about user-generated content is there's just so much of it, right? It's almost limitless how much content is being created around brands and products.
It's kind of a daunting task for brand managers to be like, oh my God, there's so much content coming through. How do I manage it all? How do I figure out the signal from the noise, right?
That's exactly it. So what we actually allow you to do is to get real-time performance data on all the content. But not only that, we actually also feed that performance data back into our own algorithm and start making proactive recommendations. So as you get new stuff coming in, we know that beach photos perform better than, let's say, selfies. So therefore, we're going to proactively recommend beach photos fresh beach photos that are coming in over selfies because of the historical data we've leveraged. So effectively, the platform just gets smarter and smarter and smarter at time.
So you're surfacing those insights and those best potential images for them to make that curation process a lot quicker.
That's exactly it. Exactly it. And so realistically, the end result is better content, but less manual effort.
Right on. So let's say I am a social media manager. Like, what does a dashboard look like? And maybe what is a day in the life of a social media manager look like, or somebody who's going to be utilizing this tool? How do they work through this? Can you show us the dashboard?
Definitely.
That'd be great.
Definitely. Let's jump straight in. All right. So here we are. You're getting a glimpse of the dashboard right here. And the way I like to explain, I mean, there's a lot in the product, and the way I like to really simply explain it is through three major workflows, just those same three that we discussed a few minutes ago. The first is around the discovery or aggregation of content. The second is around the curation and how that's all tagged and filtered, etc. And then finally, the display and where you're actually going to start publishing that content. So I might go straight through here and click through and create a term. So this is the very first step, right? You're going to log in and you're going to try to find some content around your brand or a product or a location, etc. I'm actually going to show you here an example of a client who's doing some pretty interesting stuff. And then this will give you, and I'll recreate how they've done this within our dashboard. So this is a tourism client. It's a big island, actually, back from where I'm from in Australia. And you can see they're showcasing customer stories all around their island. So this is
look at that.
This is beautiful content coming through from people who are traveling through or around their island right now. But then
it's very nicely visually displayed too. I like how it's an image and then there's a text and there's some image, and so you can actually read through the stories, not just see photos, you're actually seeing some context.
That's exactly right. And then you can really drill down into whatever category you like. Like if you're investigating a golf holiday, for example, you might want to see really specific golf content that's going to be different to the general content that most people will see when they arrive on the site. And you can now see this golf content starting to load up here. And so that's a really good example of really simple curation, right? If people are interested in golf over, let's say, sailing, let's make sure we serve them the golf content and not the sailing content. So to give you an idea of how these guys will start.
And how do you know that about an individual user? Is that through targeting through third party, or is that through your tool?
So what we do is we actually take signals from the third parties, in this case like a website or a retargeting technology or something like that has a user.
First party, third party data and retargeting stuff. Gotcha.
Yeah, and we'll take that signal from that other platform that has user context, and then it will dynamically pull the right content out of our product for the right person at the right time. That's the big problem, I guess, for a lot of marketers, right? They know how to target people, but do you have the volume of really engaging and authentic content to serve each one of those different people to make sure that they're getting a really personalized experience? With UGC, you actually have this vast and like really authentic pool of content, and you can just choose the right content to go to the right person at the right time. And it's really an easy way to scale your content marketing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. That makes sense. So how do you create one of these? So you have the create page that we can go through.
Yeah. So let's go through this here, right? We're going to go and create a term. I'm going to pick
a ton of different networks that you connect to.
Yeah. And actually, this is even just a small sample. We've got, even platforms like Twitch for gamers and Amazon product reviews a heap now. But if I just jump in and grab in, let's go grab in Instagram, right? So I'm going to pick Instagram. And because these guys are an island, I'm actually going to pull in content from physically their island. Doesn't have to mention a hashtag, doesn't have to mention a brand name. I'm just going to grab anything from Hamilton Island. So I'm going to say, all right, this is Hamilton Island, Queensland, Australia. Where are we? Here we go. And I'm going to set it at maybe like a 2-mile radius. And this is just going to pull in any content you can see here that's coming in from a 2-mile radius of Hamilton Island right now. And there you go. Content 37 minutes ago, 3 hours ago, 3 hours ago.
So that's fascinating. So people don't have to self-identify that, oh, hashtag Hamilton Island, hashtag beach, hashtag Queensland. It knows this because of the geo tagging of those images on Instagram. Now, can people share images on Instagram without including that geo filter? Is that only when you're because I know that I can say, hey, I want to tag this from where I'm at, but do I have to do that? And does something pop in even if I don't tag it with Hamilton Island?
Yeah, what we generally what a lot of our customers will do is they'll still promote brand hashtags and they want people to engage with brand campaigns. But geo is a nice way to capture content just like this, right? This is a pretty cool photo, an aerial shot, and it hasn't actually mentioned anything about Hamilton Island or any hashtag or anything like that. This post would have been missed otherwise if they had only been looking at hashtag content, right? So for us, it's about utilizing all the different ways you can bring content in, casting a wide net, and then narrowing that to identify the best. Rather than like if you just look at a simple hashtag, you're actually going to miss a whole bunch of great brand content that's out there that's not necessarily stated.
That makes sense. Absolutely.
So this is pretty straightforward. They're going to just go and pull that content in. And then there's a whole bunch of other things, which I won't go into a heap of detail around, but you can actually do things like language filtering. You know, they've got people that visit the island from China a lot. So you might say, actually, we only want, Chinese content that's in Chinese, or we want to separate. A good example for us is we've got a lot of Canadian clients, and they're like, we want to separate the English content and the French content, and we want to serve it to different audiences. So
that makes sense.
You can do some cool language filtering, and there's a heap of other stuff as well. But at that point, you can really save that term, and it's going to start pulling that content directly into the platform. At that point, you can then start curating that content. Now, keep in mind, I'm in my own personal demo environment here, so the content you're going to see here is actually stuff that I started collating when I was visiting Kauai on a vacation with my family recently. So you're going to see some Hawaiian-specific content, but that's cool. That should be fine for the purpose of the demo. So you can see here, I'm actually now in what we call the managed content interface. So you're actually now, this is where marketers are going to spend a lot of their time curating the content that they want to publish, right? So you can see here content's coming in from the Grand Hyatt Kauai, which is where I started pulling it in when I took my family on the vacation.
Yeah, so it looks like on the dashboard, it does take a little bit of time to filter in because it's going through 260,000 images for the Grand Hyatt Kauai, but it's only giving you 13,000 of those that are fitting within the criteria that you've asked for. Correct?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Okay.
And you can see
Makes
here,
sense.
this post in from a minute ago, 10 hours ago. You can. It's going to be pulling a heap of content in, and then at this point, I can then go and just simply publish this content if I want to. We also.
And where's that publishing? So that would be published then in this particular example. Well, My Island Hamilton tourist thing. If you click that, if that's your page, boom, that image will go right directly in there.
That's exactly right. But then what we also introduced is this notion of tagging, and the tagging is what when you saw with Hamilton Island, you could have content tagged as golf or sailing or whatever other topic.
Okay, for your different tabs that you have on your
So you go and apply any tag you want. And you know how
now, does it offer tags based on the machine learning and say here are the recommended tags?
Exactly, it definitely does, and in fact it auto applies tags as well. So I can give you an example of the auto applying of tags. So I actually while we started pulling in content for the Grand Hyatt Kauai, I started applying some visual recognition tagging to some content, and I started doing some advanced filtering just to see what would happen. Right. So what I've done here is I've actually gone through and I'm creating an advanced query to say I only want to see content that has been tagged beach. And actually, you know what? I actually also only want to have photos of people that are wearing, let's say, sunglasses, right? All right, I want to have all those 200 and something thousand pieces of content. I only want to show content that has got a picture of someone wearing sunglasses at the beach. That's like a really specific thing to go and query for. So it's going to go away, look for that. Okay, and it's found 30 results of people wearing sunglasses at a beach. And you can see here, all the images of these people who are actually wearing sunglasses at a beach.
Very nice, very nice. And those tags that are located underneath that image right there, woman, people, adult, those were done those were generated?
They're automatically generated by machine learning, effectively.
That's very nice.
Automatically.
That's very nice. That's so handy.
Yeah.
This could save a social media manager so much time.
Yeah.
If they're managing a brand this is relevant for.
Exactly right. And actually, even some of the newer releases we've got coming out in the product, we'll actually be able to see not only make recommendations not only on which product to publish, but also exactly which additional tags should be overlaid to determine who sees that content and where. So yeah, it's starting to get pretty advanced in terms of what machine learning can now do from an automation perspective, for sure.
Okay, this makes sense. So this is fascinating. And then I noticed when we first came into the dashboard, it was actually talking about utilizing these images in Facebook advertising campaigns. How can brands utilize the Stackla data for their social advertising? That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it's actually really easy. When you see a piece of content that you really like, let's say it's this one here, a first step might generally be to go and ask if you want to use it in an ad, you probably want to ask for permission to use that piece of content in an ad. So you'll use what we call rights via response or rights via registration. It's basically a method to go and ask someone if you can use their content. So it might look a little bit like this if I hit rights via response. Okay, and this is the handle of the user. We love your post. We want to feature it. Reply, #PeterProves. That's what I chose, to approve. And then we hit send. And once that person replies with that hashtag, that's marked as rights approved. And effectively, now we've been given permission by that person to use their content in a paid environment, or let's say in an ad. Okay, so now at this point, you're able to then click through, and you can see once that rights have been approved, I can actually send this image straight to Facebook. And what I've actually previously done is I've connected my Facebook account with Stackla. And so I've now got the ability, every time I hit this send to Facebook button, it's going to send it straight to my asset library within Facebook, and I can create an ad from it straight away. So it's actually a great way to start pushing all your the best creatives straight into Facebook, and you can spin up ads.
It's a great way to find additional content to share organically, in addition to the really cool ones to share via sharing via other forms, right? Doing that advertising thing.
Exactly right. And here's an example. This is actually a retail brand that is, again, wanting to showcase customer-generated content, but use it to drive purchases of products, right? So you can see here that a lot of their site is actually built around community content, and they encourage their customers to be sharing as much as possible. And you can see here, if I actually click through any of this community content, if I click on this one, for example, you can see here these little spots appear on the content. So I can actually hover over and say, oh yeah, I actually do want to go and buy that microbead travel pillow, or I might actually go ahead and buy like this shirt that she's wearing. And so, it's actually the ability to map products to content and let people shop other people's images effectively.
That's beautiful. Are you able to do that with video? Because that's one thing I think 15 years ago I thought of while I was watching Friends, and I was like, oh dude, that is an awesome jacket Joey is wearing.
Yeah,
I would love that jacket. What is that jacket?
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
You can't.
Now you can do that?
You can do that with video. With video, the experience is a little different. It goes on the side of the video rather than like right on top of it like we showed you here. But yeah, you can definitely do it. I'll show you how easy it is within the product actually as well to do this. So again, this is just my own demo environment. But if I scroll through and I want to find something that, let's find something that looks a bit interesting here. All right, let's say this beach, this swimming pool photo, right? And let's say in the background there's like a cruise, like a sunset cruise, right? I'm gonna click on here what we call a shop spot, create a shop spot. And this is basically adding this little dot on the image, which you saw before. And you can actually choose any product you want to feature here, right? So I've got some demo stuff in here, but I might actually apply the sunset sailing trip, right? So now we've actually taken a product SKU that you stock. We've pulled all that data in, some thumbnail photos, etc. It now lives in the product in Stackla. And so as a marketer, I can just apply that product to any part of this image. I can actually drag it around and say, oh, well, it's over here or down there. And now when I publish this piece of content anywhere, it's got this little shoppable link on that content, just like we saw with Kathmandu in that example previously.
Oh, that's phenomenal. So that's huge for travel. It seems like travel industries, if you're in that space, this is a no-brainer. and retail. What are some other areas that you found and other types of industries that are really resonating well with this user-generated content?
Yeah, look, there's actually a bunch, and one of the most interesting ones that has emerged recently is actually non-profit organizations, and they're actually using it to drive things like donations or driving people to fill out a form or put their name on a petition, for example, and they're actually increasingly using UGC to showcase the kind of community groundswell and support behind some of these non-profit organizations and their campaigns. And so to then showcase all this great supporter content and actually drive the ability to buy a product or make a donation or support the cause is actually driving a great amount of conversion for them that otherwise they weren't driving. But yeah, so you can actually see here that we actually work with a whole bunch of non-profits. We actually have a whole Stackla for Good organization within Stackla that specifically works with non-profits, and it's all about inspiring activism and advocacy through social content. And you can actually see here some of the ways that our NFP brands are using this. Again, it's the same product process, but it's about showcasing support for their initiatives and campaigns. And we work with sort of really NFPs of any size and shape. So, for example, we do a lot of stuff with Michelle Obama and her advocacy campaigns around education and higher education, secondary education, right through to WWF and even Amnesty International. So for us, it's all about showcasing those positive stories. In fact, there was a really great NFP case study that we put together with this amazing organization called No Kid Hungry.
Let's talk a little bit more before we close this up here, but let's talk a little bit about how they can use UGC in their advertising to create a more impactful experience for their customers.
Yeah, definitely. So the idea is really that you want to be able to push this content. It's highly valuable, highly engaging. You want to be able to push it anywhere. And in fact, one area we found drives the most value for marketers and the biggest ROI is actually within their paid media, within their advertising. So that could be like this example here with Toyota. This could be through Facebook advertising. Facebook advertising is either across Facebook or Instagram is a fantastic way for brands to leverage the content being created around their brand. Content that feels authentically real and social, feels like it belongs on a social network. It doesn't feel as much like an ad, and therefore the engagement drastically increases. This campaign actually that we ran with Toyota, they A/B tested brand-generated content in their ads versus user-generated content in their ads, and the user-generated content ads saw a 440% better engagement score than the
440% more engagement by utilizing customer-created content.
Yeah, and not only that, they didn't have to pay an agency all that money to go and create all that content. So it's sort of a double win. But the idea is, again, you can push that through not only to Facebook and Instagram ads, but you can actually put that through into retargeting campaigns as well. A really common use case for us is for our customers to actually retarget someone who's looking at purchasing that product. Maybe they've gone to a product page. Instead of retargeting them with the same boring product image, retarget them with carousels of Instagram photos of people actually using that product or people visiting that location, and that's significantly more compelling. And of course, it's going to drive the conversion rate of your ads up and the cost of creation for those ads down.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being on MarTech Talks and explaining what Stackla is, how it benefits social media managers, departments, marketing departments, how they can utilize this user-generated, customer-focused content, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. I think that's fascinating stuff. So next step, I guess, if somebody wants to learn more, just to request a demo, right? Go to stackla.com and grab a demo and learn from the best.
That's right. Get in there, request a demo. We'll spin up an instance of Stackla for you. You can play around and start testing that content within your brand environments.
Yeah, it's fascinating, especially when it's not just tagged, it's geo-tagged. It knows exactly what's in that. So that's really interesting to be able to identify your products in photos, and it's going to help you find a lot more images that were created by your users that you didn't even know existed, right?
Exactly right.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate you jumping on the show. Again, Stackla.com. It's great. Pete, appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, Travis. Cheers, buddy.